Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilou here. I'm in Glasgow with Anita Moorjani. Hello.
Hi, Lilou. I'm so excited to see you in person for the first time.
Oh my goodness, seeing you. And we're here at the Crown Plaza in Glasgow, where the conference tomorrow is happening, the I Can Do It conference. And when I stepped in and I saw you, it's like I knew you already. It was so amazing after those beautiful Skype interviews we have done.
Yeah, those Skype interviews were amazing, and I felt I knew you. I saw you coming in, and I thought, oh my God, there's Lilou. I recognized you straight off.
You have such a beautiful, loving energy, and it's the same energy where we could feel through Skype, and something really miraculous happened to you, and you're carrying that with you. You have this vibe.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I don't know what to say, but I mean, you also carry an incredible energy. I mean, it's just amazing. You know, you told me that you drove in from Manchester to Glasgow, and the way you travel for these interviews, it's really incredible what you do. It's so inspiring.
I'm inspired by people like you, you know, and I think it's so important that these days, those interviews, those messages are shared. People are going through hard times. People have cancer. People lose their job. People are fearful of their future. And you teach a lot about fears, and we're going to go into it. You lived a near-death experience. You were instantly healed, I guess we could say, miraculously healed. And there's so many things about near-death experience that I find really interesting. I'll actually be interviewing Dr. Raymond Moody. That is one of the person that coined the term near-death experience in 1975 with his book Life After Life. I'll be interviewing him over Skype, as well as Dr. Jeff Long.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited you're interviewing, well, both of them, but Jeff Long, who is a personal friend of mine now, because he was the first one that publicized my story by putting it on the homepage of his website. It's because of him that my story actually went out and reached people like Wayne Dyer to become a book. Yeah.
Because Wayne Dyer, after my interview with him in Maui about a year ago in Hawaii, he had printed out from this website.
Yes, that was from Dr. Jeffrey Long's website. Okay. Dr. Jeff Long actually featured my story because he researches NDEs. And he said, after receiving, 20,000 NDEs or something, he said mine was one of the most remarkable he had ever read. And so he featured it on his homepage. And so a lot of people read it and shared it around the world. And that's how it got to Wayne Dyer.
This is so beautiful. I love it. And what's so touching about those stories, well, first, you're alive here and vibrant and enjoying life and healthy, hopefully, and living for many, many years. But you're reporting some things about this total awareness, this unconditional love, the light that you felt, there is no time, there is this healing that takes place, there's this choice that we have, there's the life of fearfulness that you lived. And so I want to talk about all those different topics because I feel those are relevant for us and our lessons in our life right now. So where do we start? Because first of all, you tell us about your story just so that we can recap where you were at, and then you went into coma.
All right. Well, the story in a nutshell was that I had cancer for 4 years, and it progressed until I reached the point where I went into a coma. By that point, my muscles had completely deteriorated, and also I had open skin lesions. I had tumors throughout my body, like from the base of my skull all the way down under my arms, my chest. I had fluid in my lungs, and I was breathing with the aid of an oxygen tank. And it was at that point that I went into a coma. But in the coma, I was aware of everything that was happening around me, all the people around me and what they were doing. I was aware of the medical team, but I was also aware of much, much more. I became aware of my purpose on this planet, my purpose in this life, and I became aware of what had caused my cancer. And it was with that understanding that I became aware that if I chose to come back into my body, that my cancer would be healed. I knew it would be healed because I understood what it was that caused my cancer in the first place.
So it was this knowing. You just knew because you felt really good. you felt really, really good. And you knew that you were going to suffer coming back and your body would ache. And yet you decided to come. So something very powerful. There's a very powerful choice there.
Absolutely. There's a very powerful choice there that I made. I had the choice of whether I wanted to go onward into death or come back into my physical body. The instinctive choice was to stay there and continue on in that realm, because that realm was absolutely amazing. It was the easier choice, was to stay there, because I felt so free and so incredibly light and unconditionally loved. I'd never felt like that in my entire life. But then I kind of awoken. It was like an awakening into an awareness where I just knew that now that I knew the truth of who I really am, my body would heal. And because my father and my best friend were also in that realm with me, because they had both passed on, they seemed to imprint upon me that now that I knew the truth, I need to go back and live my life fearlessly. And I knew that now that I knew this, my body would heal. It was a knowing. It wasn't even wishful thinking or anything. It was a knowing. And even though when I first came back, my body was still sick, it needed physical time to recover. Inside, within my soul or consciousness or whatever you want to call it, I knew that I was already healed, but my body just had to catch up.
And within how many hours or days was it those tumors, those 21 tumors were gone?
Well, within 4 days, they had shrunk by about 70%, and the doctors were astounded. And then they had to wait for me to get a bit stronger. So within 2 weeks, they were starting to, again, run all the tests to find the cancer cells and the tumors. They couldn't find any trace of cancer. I mean, in 5 weeks, every test that I had done, they just couldn't find any trace of cancer.
How did they react? Because those scientists, I mean, I know they're receiving more and more testimonials of NDE, so some of them are open, some of them are even welcoming or asking that the nurses relay the information so they come. But how was it in that moment? I mean, their mind must have gone blank.
They were quite shocked in that moment. I mean, I had several doctors looking out for me, and one of them was my family doctor, who was there throughout, and he actually almost scolded me. He actually said, "You really gave us a scare there." And the oncologist said he didn't know what to even make of my case. He just didn't know what to make of it. Later on, when other people studied my medical files, everybody seemed to come up with a different conclusion. The only thing they all agree with is that I'm lucky to be alive. They all agree that the medical files show, every way they look at it show that I should have died. But the reasons they've come up with as to why I'm still alive are all different. Nobody can agree as to the reasons. One feels it's the naturopathic treatment I had been taken up until that point had helped me through this. Another one feels it was the chemotherapy that helped me, that reacted. Another one feels that the chemotherapy absolutely could not have done that, because I was so far gone that if anything, the chemotherapy should have killed me because it weakens you. So they're all in conflict about it. For me, I just feel that, it was like I accessed something. It was my state of consciousness was altered, and that is what healed me. That's what I feel.
And I guess you've heard many other stories since then that are similar cases. And the Dr. Jeff Long, I'm sure, will speak to us about many of those thousands and thousands that he has. The oncologist that was there, because I just want to raise that point because I know it's in a lot of forums. He doesn't reply anymore to any messages. Is that the same one that is now in Hawaii?
There are the one that's in Hawaii is the one.
What's his name,
Dr. Peter Koh.
Yeah.
He is the one that flew down after he heard about me. So he was living he spends part of the time in Hawaii and part of the time in Pasadena. And he heard about my case because somebody sent him, again, Dr. Long's link. Someone sent him the link. He received the link from 2 different people because Dr. Peter Koh researches spontaneous remissions. So when he received it the first time, he didn't read it because it's a very long story. When he received it a second time, he thought, okay, this is a sign I'm meant to read this. So when he read it, he was intrigued and he tracked me down and he spoke to me on the phone and he asked me about my medical records. He told me to scan a few pages, like the one for the test taken on the day I entered hospital and so on. So I scanned them and then I emailed them to him. And he called me back and he said, your test results are really scary. Whichever way I look at it, you should be dead. Yeah. And so he flew down to Hong Kong and I took him to the hospital where it happened. And he went through my medical records and he confirmed that there is no way that I should have come out of that alive. And he made copies of the records and he sent them to about 5 different cancer institutes, all of which confirmed that they have never seen anybody make such a rapid turnaround from such a late stage of cancer.
Less than 36 hours, they told you, no? Or even few hours to live?
Yeah, they said that I would be lucky to even make it through the night. They didn't even think I would last the one night. And they said the next few hours would be really critical. And so he actually had that confirmed. And then more recently, though, ever since the book came out, and he even gave me a testimonial for the book because he actually said, you should write a book about this. And he said, I'll write a little testimonial for you so that the skeptics don't get you. So, which is what he did, and it's what I've put in the book. But
he's swamped now.
Exactly. Since the book came out, so many people have been trying to contact him and email him that he's actually stopped responding to the emails.
And your book, for the people that have not read Anita's book, it's Dying to Be Me, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, delicious book. And with the foreword of Wayne Dyer, and it explains in all the details what you went through and your childhood and how you were raised all the way up to now.
Yes.
You must be so proud to see this book out and be at the I Can Do It conference with all the big A-house authors, and now you're definitely one of them at the top of the list.
I know, it's really thrilling. I still feel like it's a dream. I keep wanting to pinch myself and think, oh my God, is this really happening? I mean, and when I saw the very first copy of my book after it was published, I cried. It's like giving birth to a baby. It really was. It was really amazing. And then Wayne has been amazing. And he said to me that this is just the beginning of something really huge for you. Yeah, that's what
for the world, because that's what's beautiful is that when one has the courage to live. I mean, you went through this. You decided to come back. You knew you had a mission. Now you're talking and you wrote this book and we're doing these videos, and this message is healing the world, and it has repercussions because then other people share the videos. Our last videos, the first one we did a year ago, 300,000 views. So many people comment and share them. It's Wayne Dyer was talking about your story in his Facebook page and conferences. I mean, there's just no end, and people then carry that with them. I feel that with the near-death experience stories, that's why it's so fascinating and so important. There's many testimonials right now, and that we have this conversation, because then it opens up a new dimension for people. It's really, there's something about those stories that really impact us profoundly, even though if we haven't lived them personally.
Yeah, well, and that's really my only reason to share, because for a little while, and this was before Wayne Dyer discovered my story, before I wrote my book, for a little while, I went through a period of doubt not doubt about what happened to me. I knew what had happened to me, but doubt as to whether my sharing it was actually helping people or not. I was actually concerned that it might make people feel that if it happened to me, why isn't it happening to them or other people they knew, and things like that. So I actually stopped sharing for a while. But then I realized that that was not, my purpose was to share. That was why I came back. And the amount of feedback that I have been receiving from people, that's what keeps me going. I mean, for me, it's so not about selling books, but it is just, nothing makes me happier than to have people tell me that I have touched their life in a way that it has changed them. It has changed them for the better, or it has helped them, or it has helped them in their healing. And I have received letters and emails that have actually made me cry. And that's what keeps me going. And I mean cry in a good way. Tears of joy as to what people experience when they hear my story. I think, oh, wow, this is what I came back for. This is really what I came back for.
Let's go into the unconditional love part. Tell us, once you saw yourself as most people come out of your body, and then you went through a tunnel, and then you met loved ones, or was it not exactly like that for you?
Mine was a little different. I didn't go through a tunnel, and various different NDE experts, people who study NDEs, have had theories about that. They've said because mine wasn't a sudden death, like some people have a sudden, like a car crash, a heart attack, and they feel their body shooting out through a tunnel. Mine was a gradual, because I went into a coma. And so that's one theory. But whatever the reason, I didn't go through a tunnel, but I felt myself expanding as though I was no longer my body. It was like I was just pure consciousness. And I started expanding and expanding, as though to first filling the room and then far beyond the room. But what you were saying about unconditional love, that was amazing. I felt not only that I was loved unconditionally, it was like I just was loved just because I existed, no other reason. But I also felt unconditional love for everyone and everything, even for people that may have hurt me during my life. All I felt for them was unconditional love and compassion, and a knowing that no matter what they did, even if they hurt me really badly, no matter what they did, they were still doing the best they knew how at the time. It was like I understood why they did what they did. So there was no, it's like that feeling of unconditional love is not even a feeling of forgiveness towards those that hurt you. It's beyond forgiveness. It's like, I understand why you did what you did, and therefore there's nothing to even forgive. Because when I understand you, to me, it means you haven't even done anything wrong. To forgive someone means to say, you've done something wrong and I forgive you. So there's even a judgment there. There was like no judgment. It's like a knowing. It's almost like having walked a mile in their shoes. It's a knowing that if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same. So there's nothing to forgive. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of feeling of unconditional love. And in that realm, that was all I could feel for everyone. And that was what I felt that I was surrounded with. And I encountered my father, who had passed away 10 years before, and my best friend, Sony, who had passed away 2 years prior to that. And I was also surrounded by other beings who I didn't recognize. But all I felt from them was this unconditional love, as though they were there purely to help me, to guide me, help me through this transition.
You speak about we're all one. Could you go into that? Is that what you're saying, that you felt the same that they, but from an unconditional love perspective?
Yes. In fact, that's what I mean by we are all one, in that when we are in that consciousness place, in that place that is not of our body, when we don't have our body anymore, it's like we're all connected, we're all one, we're all part of the same. And so this is why there's this feeling of total understanding of everything that everyone is feeling, everything that they're thinking, everything that caused them to do what they do. And so there is total empathy, compassion, because it's just like we know them, and it's like we are connected, like part of the same soul or part of the same consciousness. We're all facets of one consciousness. That's what it felt like.
Did you had at any point conversations about what you came here on Earth, that you might have lived that situation or that setup already before? Did you had recollection of even before your birth while you were going through all this?
See, the interesting thing is that time is very different in that realm. It doesn't run linear. So even recollections of what I could interpret as previously or a past life, it felt like it was happening simultaneously then and there. So I had a recollection of another life with my brother, which could be interpreted as a past life. But everything that was happening, like it was like time and space didn't exist. No matter what I focused on or what was relevant in that moment, that was what came in front of me, whether it was another lifetime or another space in this lifetime, like my brother getting on a plane in India. So it was like time and space was irrelevant and time was not linear.
You realize the fear part, because I think a lot of people live through fear and live fearful lives, and we're afraid of doing something because of the consequences, or we're definitely limiting ourselves in so many ways. It's becoming such a prison for most of us on the planet. And you were living this life, and now you're, obviously, I'm sure you still have fears, but they're definitely, or maybe you don't, they're not at the level that they were.
That's absolutely right, because I realized in that realm that my life had been completely limited by fears. And what happens is that when we feel really fearful about everything, our lives become smaller and smaller, because what we do is we tend to do things to avoid our fears, and fears can actually mobilize us. So what do I mean by fears? Well, I was fearful of everything from, first of all, the most basic ones is fearful of not being liked, fearful of not meeting other people's standards, fearful of not being popular enough, not being good enough, and also fear of failing. Then there were other fears like fear of cancer, fear of everything that causes cancer. You know, I believed that mobile phones caused cancer, being out in the sun too much causes cancer, microwaves cause cancer, drinking out of plastic bottles cause cancer, and so on. So basically, living in the 21st century causes cancer, and that makes for a very, very fearful life. And for me, I watched two people very close to me, close in my age, and my best friend who I'd grown up with, like a sister, she was one of them. So two people very close to me. I watched them die of cancer before my eyes. And then I would read statistics. You know, in America, they actually have banners that say 1 in 3 people will get cancer. And that's really crazy. So here you've got two people close to you, in front of you, that are dying of cancer. So what do I feel? Am I going to be the third person? And lo and behold, I got cancer. I did get cancer, but it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, yeah, it's really interesting. But I feel that the precursor was not even the fear of cancer, but the fear of life, you know, the fear of being myself, the fear of being an expression of my own truth. It started with that. And making my own existence smaller and smaller.
The thing with the disease, or when there is, I guess, when we hear about it, is that then there is more fear that comes in, of course, and then it is kind of a vicious circle to break out of. I'm sure a lot of people would love to have a near-death experience that are going through cancer to go there, come back, or just go. Or
in fact, the purpose for me sharing my story is so that people don't have to wait for a near-death experience. Because what I tell people to do is that even if you have a diagnosis of any kind of illness, do not obsess about the illness. Do not obsess even about the healing of the illness. I know that can be challenging, but what we do is we tend to wake up every morning and obsess about how we are going to heal this. So we do everything. We read everything on it. We research on the internet. But the problem is that actually makes us more fearful, because no matter what you research, you'll always find something the opposite of that. And that's what happened to me, and that's what caused more confusion. But not only that, what ends up happening is you spend all your days obsessing about that illness. What I want to ask you to do is, instead of obsessing about the illness, find gratitude in life and find gratitude in the things about you that are still healthy, and then go and do something to celebrate that. Celebrate health. And no matter where you are in your health, whether you're well or you're not well, instead of fearing illness, instead of constantly going and looking for illness and checking up for illness and scanning for illness, I suggest you actually go out and celebrate health. We really have to learn as an entire culture, as an entire society, to celebrate health. Nobody actually teaches us what does healthy look like. All we do as a society is we say, God, as a society, we've become obese, we've become this, we've become diabetic, Nobody out there teaches you what healthy looks like. And here's what's really interesting. They tell you in places like wherever, cancer is rising, obesity is rising, and diabetes is rising. But nobody tells you how to stop it from rising. Or if they say it's because we're eating too much fast food. Now you step out of your apartment and you walk down the street. What do you see? I mean, everywhere you go, all you see are fast food, junk food restaurants. It's so hard to get healthy food really easily. Nobody is being taught that. Doesn't seem to be our default. So on the one hand, we're all being brainwashed by advertisers and so on to eat the junk food. And then we're all being told that we're unhealthy, we're diabetic, we're obese, and so on. So and so then everybody starts to get fearful.
It definitely serves some people. There's some wallets that are getting really filled up. Unfortunately, I think this world has become quite greedy, and there's never enough. And for the profits, and the sake of profits, and the sake of making more money, or we don't have time. And this is why those conversations are so important, to start to see life through a different eye, to the real eye, to see reality as it is, and not the reality that we've kind of been imposed on.
Exactly. And then, and we don't get told that our illnesses are, we think that our illnesses is because of our genes, and we don't get told that it's because of our lifestyle. Now, when I say our lifestyle, I don't mean just what we eat. That's a part of it, but that is definitely not the whole thing. It is our fear-based lifestyle as well. So fear is a huge part of it, this whole fear about getting cancer, getting diabetes, but it's also even the fear about not being enough. I mean, we are very competitive as well. Everybody feels they've got to do better, be better, work harder, make more money, and so on. That's, again, another fear-based thinking. So we have been brainwashed from the time we're very young to be fear-based. And my biggest wish for everybody and for this world is to see that for what it is, and to see it for the damage that it's doing us, and to see what it's made us. It is because we are a fear-based society that we have so many problems in the world. This is why people are so intolerant with each other, because we fear what's different. We don't embrace it. We don't accept it. We don't love our neighbors. We don't even love ourselves. That's the problem. We grow up hating ourselves, fearing our own bodies. So my biggest wish is for people to see what it is, and for people to actually become more aware of what does living a healthy life really look like. Nobody tells us that. What does a healthy lifestyle look like? To me, a healthy lifestyle is one where people are more in touch with who they are, their authentic self. And this means not only in everything they do, it's in everything they do, it's in everything they eat. It means you don't have to constantly worry about what people think of you. You don't have to worry about chasing, pursuing. It means trusting that all I have to do is be myself. My body knows. My body knows what it wants to eat. It's trusting your body, even in terms of what to eat, in terms of what to do, what to follow, following your heart.
And allow life to happen.
Exactly. Allow life to happen. Allow life to unfold before you, rather than chase it, pursue it, rather than trying to control it. We've also become control freaks, but that's as a result of fear.
Mm-hmm. Ooh la la, isn't this juicy? Oh my goodness, this is juicy. You have to share this. You have to share this everywhere. I love this. Anita, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, you're so delicious. I'm so happy. Look at that. She's here. She's here. I'm holding her.
I love you, Lilou. You know, I just want there's one message. It's interesting. I just feel the need to share it. It's to do with unconditional love. And I had a caller in one of my radio interviews, radio shows, teleclass, who said to me that she found out her husband wanted to leave her, but she didn't want to leave him, and she was trying to force him to stay. And I did respond to her something, and I've no way to get in touch with her, but I think this would apply to a lot of people, so I just feel compelled to say that after that call, much after that call, it kind of hit me what I really should have said to her. And what I really should have said is that when we learn to love ourselves unconditionally, we are able to love other people unconditionally. And if you are in an issue, if you're having an issue in your relationship, the conversation that I would really like to see you have is something along the lines of saying to your partner that I love you unconditionally enough for you to have what you want in life. But if what you want goes against my values for myself, I love myself unconditionally enough not to have to put up with it. So, in other words, the difference between regular love as we tend to practice it in physical life, we tend to place conditions. We tend to have actual contracts, like marital contracts, and we expect people to stand by the contracts, whether they feel love for us or not. Unconditional love is when you love somebody enough that what you want for them is for them to have what they want for themselves. And if what they want for themselves is not quite what you want in the relationship, unconditional love for yourself allows you to leave the relationship. And if that person doesn't want to lose you, if they love you and want to give you what you want, they will stay in the relationship. But it will be a much more real relationship than a conditional one where two people are doing it out of obligation.
Wow, that was a big piece. I'm sure for a lot of people, oh my goodness, this is direct practice right there. We can all get some of that for sure. Thank you.
My pleasure. I just felt the need to say that.
Yes. Very, very good. I'm glad you did. And this is part of the spontaneity and living in the moment and expressing what you feel. And kind of we're all being channels and kind of the hands and the mouths of the universe, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. We all are. And that's the truth of it, you know. And the thing is that I don't believe in treating anybody like a guru, because what I want people to know is that you have a guru in here. So listen to that.
Yeah. Very, very important. Thank you, Anita.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's such a pleasure talking to you, Lilou.
I can't wait to see you on stage tomorrow with Wayne Dyer.
Oh, I'm so excited. Wayne Dyer has been absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited to be on the stage with him. And I'll wave at you.
Ah, yes. Much love, my beautiful co-creators. I send you much love from Glasgow in Scotland. I'm here with Anita Moorjani, and her book is Dying to Be Me. You have to read it or check this out or send those videos. Thank you for your support on the Juicy Living Tour. Thank you for your donation. This is how the tour works. So I'm so grateful to be able to take my little camera around the world and interview amazing people like Anita. So much blessings to you guys. I love you. Speak to you soon.
Namaste.
Namaste. Okay.